It was just after 10 p.m. when Marcus Wright, a 29-year-old accountant, stepped out of his car and walked down the dimly lit street. His day had been long, and he was eager to get home. The night was cool, the streets almost deserted, with only the occasional car passing by. Marcus lived in a neighborhood that, on the surface, seemed safe, but nothing is ever as simple as it seems. As Marcus turned the corner, he noticed a police car slowly rolling down the street behind him. At first, he thought nothing of it. But as the car slowed and came to a stop just a few feet away, Marcus felt a strange tightening in his chest. Something didn't feel right. Before he could make a move, the car's lights flashed on. The harsh red and blue lights reflected off the nearby buildings, casting an eerie glow. Marcus froze. He turned around slowly, his stomach sinking. He had done nothing wrong. Why were the police stopping him? The officer stepped out of the car, a woman, mid-30s, with sharp features and an expression that seemed more professional than friendly. Officer Ramirez. He recognized her from the local news stories about her work in the precinct. "Excuse me, sir," Officer Ramirez called out, her voice firm but calm. "Can you stop right there, please?" Marcus's mind raced. "Is something wrong, officer?" "You're walking in an area known for drug activity," she said, her eyes scanning him from head to toe. "We've had reports of someone matching your description involved in a robbery. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?" Marcus blinked, trying to process the situation. "I'm just walking home from work. I don't know anything about a robbery." The officer took a step closer, her eyes narrowing as she looked at his outfit, a well-fitted blazer and dress pants. "I understand, but we've been alerted to a suspect matching your description. You'll have to come with me." Marcus's heart pounded. The situation was escalating too quickly. "Wait, what do you mean? I haven't committed any crime." "Just stay calm and cooperate," Officer Ramirez insisted, her voice unwavering. Marcus's mind raced. His life had been simple until now, a steady job, a quiet routine. But here he was, being pulled into something he had no part in. He could feel his blood pressure rising, but he didn't want to make things worse. "Please, I'm just trying to get home. I'm not involved in anything," Marcus said, his voice shaking. Officer Ramirez didn't seem to hear him. She stepped forward, her hand moving toward her radio. "I'm calling this in." Marcus took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "I understand that you're doing your job, but you've got the wrong person. I've never been involved in anything like that." For a moment, the officer hesitated. There was a flicker of something in her eyes, doubt? Uncertainty? Marcus couldn't tell, but it felt like the tension in the air shifted, just a bit. Then, out of nowhere, another voice spoke from behind him. "Hey! Officer Ramirez, hold up." Marcus turned, startled, as a man in his 40s approached. He was tall, with graying hair, and a familiar face. It was Officer Daniels, another cop from the precinct. He had been on duty in the neighborhood a few weeks ago when there was a burglary. "That's not him," Officer Daniels said firmly. "You've got the wrong guy." Officer Ramirez froze, her eyes snapping from Daniels to Marcus. "What do you mean?" "I know this guy," Officer Daniels said, walking up to Marcus with a reassuring smile. "He's Marcus Wright, the accountant. He works at the firm across the street. He's been here for years. I've seen him around. He's not involved in anything shady." Marcus felt his heart slow as Officer Daniels spoke, but the doubt in Officer Ramirez's eyes didn't disappear immediately. "But the description doesn't match," Officer Daniels interrupted, shaking his head. "The person we're looking for is much taller and built differently. You've got a case of mistaken identity." For a long moment, Officer Ramirez said nothing, her gaze flicking between Marcus and Officer Daniels. Slowly, she seemed to relax, her shoulders dropping slightly as she processed what Daniels had said. Finally, she sighed and looked at Marcus. "You're right," she said, her voice softer now. "I'm sorry for the confusion. We've had some reports, and I acted too quickly." Marcus was still trying to catch his breath. He'd never felt so vulnerable in his life. He was relieved, but the weight of the situation still hung in the air. He had been so close to something bad happening. "It's okay," Marcus said, though his voice was still shaky. "I understand. But you should be more careful next time." "I will," Officer Ramirez replied, nodding. "Thank you for being understanding." As Officer Ramirez returned to her patrol car, Marcus felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief, yes, but also anger at how easily a simple walk had turned into something that almost ruined his night. He had done nothing wrong, yet he had been treated like a suspect simply because of his appearance. "Take care, Marcus," Officer Daniels called as he walked back to his own car. "You too," Marcus replied quietly, watching the police car drive off into the night. He continued his walk home, his mind reeling from the near miss. One small decision could have changed everything. But for now, he was safe. And that was enough.